excited who is here and who's watching the replay. I'm Heather Dempsey, and I wanted to share with you 3 ways to sell. So, to me, selling seems to be one of the most intimidating things for people. They're asking in the groups, how can I increase retail? How can I suggest products without seeming like I'm pushing something or I feel so awkward? And I am an introvert. I'm also highly sensitive and I'm just not a great peopler. So it's never been something that was a natural thing for me. And so over the past 30 years, I kind of perfected all these different styles with different team members that I worked for. I'll go into my history a little bit later too. And I found it that there are 3 different styles that we can sell, and it allows us, the introverts, people that are new in the industry, working with a new product line, maybe you drop ship, or maybe you're super confident, you're extrovert, and you love selling. All of these will apply. And the fun thing is you can interweave them together. You can use one on a grumpy day, like Maria's saying she's not feeling good today. She'd probably use the first one I'm going to share with you. Maybe the second one. But it's just allowing ourselves to be us instead of fitting the mold that I see out there in a lot of different trainings where it's like, this is the way to do it. This is the way to succeed. And there are more ways to do things. So I wanted to share that. I am going to share a presentation just to keep me on track so I don't forget anything. So let me share screen. I'm not the most techie person, but um, where are we? Hang on. Let me find this really quick. Okay, so yeah, I am terrible at this. Hold on a second. Okay. And share. So are you guys seeing my screen right now with the shared?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Whoa, that was easier than I expected it to be. All right, so ramp up your revenue. This is a number one thing that we're being told, right? I think it's very important that we learn how to increase our revenue without wearing ourselves down and needing it to be with more appointments, more clients, more promos and stuff like that. So with the 3 ways to sell, this is going to help with wherever you are in your business, whatever product line you have, and however you're feeling that day and whoever you're working with as well. So at the bottom, there are just some publications that I've been featured in, just in case you're curious. But again, my name is Heather Dempsey. And so today I'm going to cover the 3 different styles. The one is if you're new, if you're working with a new line, or if you drop ship. The second one is if you feel confident in yourself and your line. So that maybe you've been in the industry 6 months or you've been working with a line for a couple months and you know what kind of results to expect. The third one is when you're confident about how your products complement each other, and you don't even have to feel confident, but you're confident in how your products complement each other, how they work together. So who am I? Again, I'm Heather Dempsey. I've been in the industry since the 90s. I had the #1 day spa in the greater Philadelphia region. I think it was for at least a decade, right? That's 10 years, that it was recognized as that. And then also Best of Bucks. I actually started this company with $500 and grew it to $1 million business. I had 18 different businesses so far in my life. I'm 48 years old, but I want to also clarify 18 doesn't mean 18 separate businesses. I count a new business as one when I've enhanced or renovated or expanded. That's the better word, expanded in my businesses. So at one point, I had expanded 7 times in 14 years. So my spa just kept growing and growing and growing. And that was the result. So I've had up to 27 employees. And I also realized that I was super depressed, ended up with a divorce, and had a little mini meltdown. I switched gears and I started coaching. And so it was that I couldn't be present in my business anymore, but I had the tools. So I was coaching other spa professionals, but I was also coaching on the emotional health or our lack of emotional wellness. So that was a big passion for me, but I started missing the industry too much. So I ended up opening, there's a really long story to why I opened a brick and mortar again, but it was about a year ago. And I always say I'm solo-ish and thriving beyond anything I expected. At the end, I am going to share with you how that might be your story as well, just if you wanted to learn more about it. But let's just dive right into the revenue. So before we get started, I just want you to think about how you feel about your revenue in general and also your retail sales. So if you're thinking like, okay, this is what I'm averaging every month, if you don't know that number, you need to, because that's when we really start to take control of our business and what we're creating within it is when we know our numbers. But just thinking like, okay, if this is your revenue and your retail sales, how do you feel about that? Is it something you're comfortable with? Is it something that you want more? And just know that revenue as a whole will increase not just from increased retail sales, but your client satisfaction will increase, your recommendations and referrals will increase, and your reputation will be enhanced as well. So, how much do you want to earn each month? So, think about this, right? Considering where you are right now, how much do you want to be generating each month? And let that number be as radical as what first comes to your mind, right? We don't have to have some modest number or, um, I don't know, just feeling nervous about asking for something special. So, where are you now in comparison to where you want to be? Just know where that gap is and know that we can change that. So let me just get back into here. Now my screen isn't moving. Okay, here we go. All right, let's dive in. So, a couple things that you need to know with any type of sales in this business. You need to know who you're selling to, whether that's a service or whether it's a product. So, today I'm going to use a language a lot about retail, but know that this can apply to services as well. So you need to know who you're selling to and not their name and their phone number, but what are they about? Who do they associate with? What's their lifestyle like? How often do they get services? So I'll go into this a little bit later as well. Another thing is you absolutely have to build rapport. So rapport is very different than being likable. So a lot of times people strive on someone liking them or having this image. Rapport is almost a command of respect and a trust and security with somebody. So if you've ever been talking to somebody, so a lot of this is going to be the psychology, the emotional connection that we have. If you've ever been talking to someone and you feel like you're so on the same page and they are really hearing you and they're acknowledging and maybe commenting back in a way that they really get it, and then all of a sudden they go off on something that's completely different and you know that you just disconnected in a way, that's a break in rapport. So when a client is saying something like, actually, let's say that they're like considering that they would want to get a series of services, and then by the end, they've changed their mind, or now they have to think about it. Somewhere rapport has been broken. So, rapport is a really important part of our industry, and it's how we become able to attract lifetime clients. So, trust is another thing, which to me is very different than rapport. You can have great rapport, but somebody might not trust your product line. They might like you and think that you know what you're doing, but not trust what you're recommending to them. So, we have to establish a really good trusting relationship, but we also have to be able to trust them. So, listening for the things and not hearing. A lot of this is like what we would think in a relationship when we're attracted to a potential partner and we're like ignoring the red flags and we're like, oh, well, that'll get better as we get closer. So we have to build a really trusting and really transparent relationship with our clients. So another thing that's really, really successful for any of our services, letting the client sell themselves. So no one wants to be told what to do, ever. Clients don't really want to be told what to do either, not in a way that they're being scolded to told. They want to be suggested things or they want you to inform them. But it's always better when they are making the final decision and they've sold themselves. So there's a special way that we talk to them that allows them to sell it. And I will also talk about that later. So, the number one thing, and I am going to just share the number one way, or say the first way for selling. So, the first way, again, is if you're new in the industry, working with a product line for a short period of time and you're not super comfortable or confident with it yet, but you know it has potential. So, in this, it is a long-term strategy. This is not going to be a short-term gain thing. It's a long-term strategy. It is why it's good for somebody that's newer in the industry. It allows you to gain trust, to also get case studies, to build experience and gain knowledge of your recommendations and how the products respond. And so this method is simply just giving samples. So you might say to a client, what are you using at home? And give them the sample of a comparable item like that, or what are you almost running out of, and give them a sample for that. Now, that could be a recipe for just handing money away if you don't do it right. So we don't just give them a sample and be like, okay, I hope you come back and buy that. This is a way for us to establish a really strong relationship with them. So once we give them the sample, we explain what we expect them to see from using this product. We explain why we think that that will happen. So that would be ingredients or, again, like what history it has. And then we would let them know that the only time, and if this is true, the only time that you haven't seen those results is if somebody isn't using it properly, whether that was a miscommunication, a misunderstanding. So would it be okay for you to reach out and see how it's going in a couple days? So we're not saying anything about selling anything. What happens there is the client trusts you. They feel really comfortable that you're not out to sell them something. It sets a really nice tone for that trust of, if they love what you're recommending to them and you've been willing to give it to them, they feel like you wouldn't ever just try to get them to buy something unless you knew it was great. And then also, when you get to follow up with them, it's helping to deepen the relationship and the connection you have with them. It's also giving them a chance to see that they can feel secure with you because you do what you say you're going to do. And again, factor all of our relationships with our clients into the same type of dynamic and potential trauma and triggers that romantic relationships can have. People need reliability, they need security, they need to feel heard, they need to feel like you're really paying attention to them and that you will only do right by them to feel trust within you. So, um, this is a really great way to get to see when you check in with your client what results they're getting. Maybe you check in 2 days and then you check in again in a week, and you get to hear what's the progress that somebody gets. So this is great if you're new or working with a new line. You can hear about the case study results, and that way, where this works is it becomes social proof when you're speaking to another client and you might want to recommend that they purchase this product. You can say, other clients of mine that have been using this, they're finding X, Y, and Z. So now you're not just speaking from the company's results, you're speaking from your firsthand experience. This is something I feel is very important too. This is the transparency part. Um, we have, I'm going to segue for a second. We have all these different equipment like jet plasma and all the different micro needling and nano channeling. And so the companies always give us before and after pictures, and they're fantastic. And it's a great way to sell the product. But we don't always get those same results, especially not when we're first starting with something until we get in the flow of it. So by having our own pictures, our own case studies, and showing people, we get to say, this is what the company says is possible. Here are some of my actual results. Even if they aren't as good as the companies, you've still kept trust and you're building rapport with that transparency. They now know that you're not faking it or misleading them. And it's almost like a disclaimer that you're putting it out there of like, these results are possible. These are the ones I'm getting. You could get this, or at worst, you would get this. So these are just different ways that when we are really, really transparent, really letting someone kind of test something and see what we're about, it helps to build our long-term relationship with them. Any questions or comments so far about this? All right, so with this first style, again, it could be expensive if we're just sampling a billion things. So I want to talk about who we are selling to, and I'm going to touch on that with each three ways to sell. So who we are selling to, if you have a client that comes in and you know for sure that they're using 6 products a day on their skin, well, that person might use 3 samples that you give them. So you get to weigh of like, am I going to give them these 3 because I know they're going to have the most impact and I know it will impress the client the most and I believe they will use it, then absolutely that might be a wise investment. But if you have someone that comes in and they're still just using soap on their skin or CeraVe or something that's not spa oriented and it's not really treatment oriented, you might not want to bombard them with 3 samples because you could be wasting your money unless, again, you know the results are going to be spectacular. For them, you might say, what would you be willing to add to your routine? If you're happy with your cleanser, because we have to accept that sometimes people are, or they're not willing to invest the way that we would in their skin with products. So we would ask, what would you be willing to try? And let them tell you what they're willing to. You can then explain to them, you can kind of counter offer, okay, that makes sense. I do really feel that this is going to give you the most impact. This is going to give you the most transformation for your skin, but here's how that differs from what you said you'd be willing to do. Let them really be a part of the process of what you end up giving them. So that who you're selling to really matters so that you save your money and you don't waste giving stuff away because products are expensive and samples are not cheap when we're giving them to everybody. So again, any questions? I'll pause here just in case. All right, so we'll go into our second. So the second style is when you are comfortable with the products that you're working with. You're comfortable with your ability, you feel confident to talk about things. This one I do feel takes a little bit more confidence and selling ambition. So it's easy still, but, and you may have heard of this style, where when someone comes in and we find out what they're using, we might recommend the 3 products that we would suggest, or we would suggest 3 products to them. When we're suggesting 3 products, I usually want to give them basics, something they're already using and running out of. Maybe it's a cleanser, maybe it's a toner, but then I also want to recommend the thing that will have the greatest impact for them, the quickest win. So when someone has a quick win, they get excited, they're motivated, and they have more confidence. So we want to give them that serum that's going to really make a difference, that moisturizer that's going to help nourish them, that something that's going to help with strengthening or healing their skin barrier. And then something that they would use on a regular basis. So you know you have them somewhere. They're either going to be consistent with using the regular basis, or they're going to be really motivated to use the more active ingredient product. So with this one, we are giving them the options of what they might want to try, but we're also guiding that with what we know they'll have the greatest success with, right? What will impress them the most. And in this, you still have leeway in how it works, because you're going to look at the person who, again, what type of person are you working with? If it's somebody that uses one cleanser and they barely moisturize or wear sunscreen, then we might want to just start with super basics with very good results. And it might be a cleanser, a toner, and a moisturizer. Very simple. Or it might be a cleanser, an exfoliator, and a mask, because that's a little bit more of a treat. But I don't know if it's still challenging for everybody else in the industry. I'm kind of old school with it, and masks were never an easy sell for us. Cleansers, toners, moisturizers, serums, treatment products were easier. Masks, not so much, because we had to find a way to convince clients that they are easy to fit into your routine. So maybe you're educating them while you are giving them options of what they'll have. So you would say, like, this is why there's the benefit to this product. This is how you would use it. And then you can continue on and saying, like, do you think that that's something that you would realistically be using? And go from there. So with this second style of selling, you are basically providing the service, giving a recommendation of 3 products, and letting them tell you how they feel about that. If their response is that they're not interested, be like, well, can I share with you the one that I think, like, I almost don't want you to go home without, and let them tell you if they want to hear about that or not. Or you can ask them why, right? What about the products were they not interested in? And let me go back. If you're saying, hey, these are the 3 products that I suggest, how do you feel about that? If they respond positively, here's where we're working into the psychology of working with people and letting them sell themselves. If they respond positively to the 3 that you suggest, ask them what makes them feel that way. What makes them feel good about it? What did you say, or what characteristic of the product appealed to them? So we've educated them, we've told them, we've sold them. Now, if they're happy with this recommendation and they tell us why, now they've sold themselves. This is a really killer strategy, and it's something that's being used in more high intensity, high pressure sales that are trying not to be high pressure. So definitely a psychological, neurolinguistic programming and hypnotherapy approach, which is what I love. So yeah, asking them, so what is it about that that you liked? And they might say, oh, well, it sounds like it's going to really help with like firming the skin or with pigmentation. Awesome. And why is that important to you? So we're just conversationally, it's not a pressure thing. Why is that important to you now? And then we'll explain why. Be like, all right, well, let's say if we don't do anything with this, what do you think is going to change about your skin? And they're going to say, like, nothing. All right, what if you keep using what you're using? Do you feel confident, or is this something that you really want to try? Again, we're getting them to buy in the whole time and not feel sold to. You're just having a conversation. So this one's really easy, but it does take that confidence to have that recommendation of 3 products. You're picking them on your own. For me, again, being introverted, kind of getting a little uncomfortable on occasion, but more importantly, I'm a Libra who's very indecisive. So if you're indecisive, if you're newer with products and you're not quite sure, that's the only time it would hold you back. But then you go with the simple ones: cleanser, toner, moisturizer, or cleanser, moisturizer, and a serum. Any questions about this style? Any comments, any observations, or anything at all before I move on to the third one?
There was a comment that was like, "Oh, this is
Okay.
a great idea."
Oh, great. Which one was that for? Number, you can just put number 1 or number 2, and I'll come back to C too, if not now. All right, so the third one. So let's go to the third one. It's so funny. I'm so tech deficient. So the third one is the money maker. And this one, seriously, when I say ramp up your revenue, it's like ridiculous how much it will. This one, you need to know the relationship between your products. So you have to know how they respond well to each other. It's not like you'll mess up, but you will have such a different level of confidence when you know. So, say for example, I use Eminence and I use Yanka. When I first start working with somebody and their skin barrier is a mess, one of my favorite recommendations is recovery serum or recovery oil, facial recovery oil, and bamboo firming fluid. So all of my clients are mature. We're all worried about our crepey necks. So I always say the bamboo firming, you're going to start to notice a difference within 2 weeks, but we're not going to actually see much of an improvement in your skin in all the other things that you want to fix until your skin barrier is healthy. And that's where we need the recovery oil. Why I love this is, and I would explain all these. So you need to know and be able to have that conversation about how they work together. So what you do in this style is after you've provided your service, again, know who you're selling to, know who you're working with. If it's somebody that only marked off one thing, have a simple expectation of what we're going to do with this. If you have somebody that's marked off their whole entire, every single thing, every product that they use, cleanser, toner, moisturizer, sunscreen, body care, serums, eye treatment, you basically hit the jackpot. So during your service, every product that you use, you're actually just going to keep out on your counter. And a little tip, if you don't already do this, it makes it so simple to sanitize everything after you've used it because you've only left out what you've touched. So anyway, you're going to place it on the counter in the order in which you've used it, or at least organize it by the end of your treatment in that way. Once you are finished with your service, and you would say to your client, like, how are you feeling? Can I get you anything at all? Do you have any questions for me before I step out to let you change? And if they are all okay with everything, then just say, well, just so you know, I left everything I used on you on the counter. So I kind of do this like I'm telling them a secret because it just makes it a little more playful, in my opinion. And I say, I left everything I used on you on the counter. Anything that you would need to scoop out, there's a little spatula on there, so you cannot put your fingers in there. That would totally, you could say like add bacteria to the product, or it would make it where I'd have to throw it away. However, you need to educate them if you feel comfortable with leaving something like that out for them. We would say, these are all the products. Here are the spatulas for each product. Go ahead and play with anything that you want to play with. That way, if you have any questions, then you can just let me know either when you meet me out of the room or when I come back in, however you work your treatment room. Now, there's more to this. So I'm going to go back, right? I've introduced this idea. Now I'm going to go back to during your consultation with a client. When they're telling you what they would want to address during your treatment, you should already be name dropping products that you intend to use during the service. So, for example, if my clients were saying, like, oh, my neck is starting to get crepey, or I'm noticing that my skin is this, and I would say, oh, I am totally in love with this one product. It's a bamboo firming fluid. I'll definitely use it on you at least once or twice throughout the service. Or it might be somebody talking about pigmentation. Okay, well, I have these awesome bright skin products, so I'm going to be using, you're going to feel a little tingling over here from this product. So I'm explaining to them and I'm telling them the names of the product during the consultation before they even lay down for the facial. So another little tip, if you do your consultation or any form of it while they're already changed and lying down, you've already lost a lot of opportunity because rapport probably hasn't been built because you've asked somebody to get naked and lay down and be in your territory before they've even gotten comfortable and feel safe. So if you're not having your consultation sitting down, just imagine that that's a way to level up your professionalism and their comfort level. So in this consultation, you're already name dropping products you're going to use. Now, once they are laying down during your service, you are going to mention when you're using those products because now they've heard the name of it, they've heard why you're using it, that's planted, but they probably won't remember. But then when you're in the service and you're explaining, oh, remember I talked about the bamboo firming, that's what I'm using on your neck right now. Do you smell it? Can you feel a texture? And then even like get their fingers and put it on their fingers or something, or ask if they wanted to touch it. That way they're getting even more connected and more familiar with that product. And you've created consistency and reliability, which helps build rapport. You said you were going to use something. Now you've proved to them you used it. It's not a mystery whether you did or didn't. Or if you're not going to use it, mention that, right? It's a way to just really keep them knowing what's happening and feeling like they have control and you're informing them. So after you've mentioned all these products as you're using it, and then you do this demonstration of here's everything I used on you today. Here's spatulas in case you want to double dip into, or so you don't double dip into anything if you want to scoop in, and then pull forward just a little bit more. These were the products I was talking about in the consultation, and I do still feel like they're a good fit for you. Or it might be, these are the products I mentioned in the consultation, but I'm actually thinking this is even more powerful for you. So bring a little bit forward the ones that are best for them. And then you can step out of the room. So hopefully you're working with clients that you would trust, or you make enough money that it's okay if something goes missing on occasion. But they know that you've left it all out there. I've never had a problem with anybody taking anything. So I know that that's usually a thing that comes up. People get nervous about it. But I've never had anybody take anything, and I'll go back in the room while they're still there if I ever felt weird about something like that. But so whether you come back in the room after they're changed or if they meet you out in a lobby or a reception area, either is fine. I used to work in a location that my retail was in my room with me, which I guess would be similar for suites and stuff. I now work in a space where I have a boutique with all the retail. I did enjoy when my retail was in the room because I would let them get changed and sit down and wait for me. I would come back in and ask if they had any questions, and then I could just pull retail right from the shelves. In this way, you can leave the stuff on the counter. If they come out to meet you in a lobby boutique area, you do want to bring them where products are. And then you can ask, like, did you have any questions about the products? Or before you leave the room, and you can say, oh, if you want to meet me out here, bring anything you're curious about out with you. So what I found when I would walk in the room, I would catch them holding something and looking at it. And that was really easy to start the conversation. With them walking out, there is just that short distance of them changing their mind and talking themselves out of it. So you really want to play with this part of it to see what works best for your business, the way that it's physically set up, right? The actual location. But when they come out and start asking about products, this is where you need to know the relationship between all of them. Normally, what I found in practicing this is that people always gravitate towards at least one of the products. And it's usually one that you've talked about in the consultation that you told them you used during the facial, because now they're like, oh my gosh, this is so cool, and they have a connection to it. So when they start to talk about that product, then you would say, yes, this is great. Remind them why it's amazing, and then ask them, how does that sound for you? They are now selling themselves after you have seeded and practiced and sold them through the treatment. So once they explain why they think it sounds good, so is there anything that, would you like me to wrap it up? Or if they say no, what's stopping you? Because that's where we haven't established enough rapport. If something's stopping them, we haven't told them the value enough. We haven't explained to them why it will benefit them, or maybe they just need more instructions, but ask them instead of just taking kind of no for an answer. One of the things I find in sales, when people are nurturers, they feel like selling is pushy. But we're nurturing people, and we're professionals, and we're experts at it. And you wouldn't go to the doctor and be like, "Hey doc, what's wrong with my sinuses?" And him be like, "You have a sinus infection. Sorry," and then leave. You would expect him to diagnose you, which we're analyzing the skin. You would expect him to treat you, and then you would expect him to give you the aftercare that you need to heal and get better. So it is our job. And I think when we really, really own that and know that and take that as our responsibility to our clients, it makes selling a whole different thing. It's your job. You're doing them a disservice if you're not offering them product. I will always say to my clients, you don't have to worry about purchasing a single thing today, but I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't tell you what I would recommend. So there is no pressure, but can I share these things with you? And so again, I am also telling them, like, this is what I'm going to do. Is that okay with you? So they already know that there's no pressure. They already know that I'm just doing my job, but I'm still asking them, is that okay? So these are really important nuances that you will want for that building rapport, building trust, building authority, and also increasing your sales. So with this one, can you see how powerful it can be to let them play with your products, and also why it's important to know? So I didn't really get into that, why it's important to know the relationship between them. The clients typically will have one that they are interested in. It's usually one of the ones you recommended. But your way that you can now add to your sales is, if you had the client, who are you working with? Somebody that only uses one product and they're interested in one, just stick to that. Maybe give them a sample of another one. But if you have a client that has marked off every product, now we need to know even more about them, because we want to know if they enjoy something fast. Do they want like a really no frills maintenance? or do they like ritual? So I'm finding younger clienteles really prefer ritual. The more mature clienteles are used to us being like on the go and do it. But there's this self-care movement, thank God, that is helping people see that like ritual with our skincare is actually a really nice thing. But you need to know that because say for example, between Yanka and Eminence, if I'm working with my two product lines, Yanka has an exfoliator that is like beautiful. It's so gorgeous. It's called Gommage, but it's a process. It's a gel exfoliator, so you have to put it on a certain way. You can't rub it in too much. If their skin's dehydrated, they'll just drink it. If it dries too much, then you can't get it flaked off. If it doesn't dry enough, you won't get it to slough off. So it's a little bit of a science. They have to learn how to use it and it takes a bit of time, but the results are so gorgeous. Now, my other clients who maybe have no interest in spending time, I'd be recommending something from Eminence. And again, I'm just name dropping the things I use as examples, but they have their Physiofoliant and the Dermafoliant. So super fast. Oh, you can just use this, just sprinkle it right in your cleanser, use it in the shower. There you go. So I want to make sure that I'm recommending based on who the client is and what's realistic that they're going to use. But I would say, oh, I see that you picked the Minoy cleanser. It's so great. I love this cleanser. You know what's awesome with that? I use this and I sprinkle the strawberry dermafoliant in there. So strawberry dermafoliant has our lactic acid. It's a nicer, a little bit more of a granule. Even though this cleanser has granule in it, this has more. So you need to be able to describe the relationship between all the products. And then you can start layering what you would be using for them. So now you're just telling them basically what their protocol would be, what they could do at home with all of these different products. And as I usually find that this method, if someone comes out with one product, they usually end up going home with three. At the very least, they end up going home with one. But again, as we're talking about our products and as we're giving them the characteristics and what they could expect of it, ask what they think about that. When they tell you what they think about it, then you ask them what makes them feel that way. Because now it's no longer you recommending, prescribing, suggesting, or trying to sell. It's them telling themselves that this is a fact and they need it. So I have one more tip that I'm going to share for this, and then I want to open up questions and give a couple more little bits of information that aren't directly related to this. But another strategy for any way that you're selling, any of these top three ways that I found successful, is always handing your client a product. So when you're talking about a product with them, don't just hold it or don't just point to it. Whenever possible, hand it to them. Now, this feels really awkward like the first 5 times you do it. If you're an introvert, if you're really shy, if you're weird about stuff like I am, it's like, why would I be handing a client a product? It's also hard for people pleasers because we don't ever want to put any responsibility on somebody else. So to make them hold something is weird. So a nice segue to get accustomed to doing this is if you're talking about a cleanser with them, you would be looking at the cleanser. So you hold the cleanser, look at it, point to ingredients, do all this stuff. And then as if you are going to reach for something else and you couldn't possibly still hold the cleanser too, you hand it to them and go get the other one to then show them the product. That's a really great strategy for sales because once somebody has it in their hand, they're connected to it. And especially if you're working with a really good product line, there's this energetic kind of synergy that can happen. They've just had a service with a product. There's this good vibe to it, literally frequency, vibration that can be to it. And they might want to kind of take ownership to it. So that's a little tip there. So let me just move in my slides and ask, does anybody have any questions about the third strategy or any of the first two?
Christine said, I really like the tip of leaving products out for them.
It's really the easiest way to sell product. And one of the things, like I always say, like I talk playfully with my clients. So the experience is incredibly professional, but it's also very down to earth. And I usually will end up as I'm leaving the room, I'm like, when do you get to play in an esthetician's room? Like it makes it fun, and then they feel like they are welcome to do it. So this is something that usually when I share this, it's a lot of testing and trial that you can do now. They might be brand new concepts, they might not be, but you may have heard a different nuance to it, or it might have kind of kicked you to start it up again. So you can definitely use this right in your business. There are other things about it, though. I want to make sure, like the intake form and your consultation, they do need to be on point. Because if you're not doing a right intake form and you're not having a thorough consultation, you're not seeding products, you're not name dropping products, then your work is going to be harder at the end. And there's a special way that you want to communicate to provide a 5-star experience. So you want to make sure that the way that you communicate with your clients, right? I talk a lot about trauma because it's a big deal. Our clients are getting very vulnerable with us. They're closing our eyes and having us bring our hands to their faces. This is something that I think some people can take lighter than it is. But even asking someone to change, to get changed to do a service, it's a weird thing, but a product line I work with, being a green spa, they didn't want us to provide spa wraps. And it was in order to, reduce laundry, which I can appreciate. But if somebody had some trauma, I'm not going to be like, hey, you don't have a choice but to take your clothes off, or I'm going to get your shirt all wet or something. So there's a special way to communicate, like, how is the temperature for you? Not, is this too warm or is this hot? Is this too cold? How is the temperature for you? Would you like me to change it in any way, warmer or cooler? There's something that's a little more sophisticated about asking that instead of like, what do you want? Do you want any water? Would you care for anything to drink? What could I offer you to drink? What could I offer you as a beverage? Little things like that, but then also how we get the client to know. One of my really big things is I always say disclaimers. I like to tell people the worst case scenario and let them know, like, this is the worst thing that can happen. I've never had this happen, but I just want you to be aware. And I also want you to know that at any time, I need you to communicate with me. Again, in the playful way, I always say, like, I'm trying my best to read minds, but I can only do it 50 or 75% of the time. And just have them laugh. I'm like, nothing would ever hurt my feelings. If there's anything that you want me to change, anything you like that you want me to keep doing, just please let me know. It's important for me that you have a great experience. Maria was just talking about a strategy I have for intake forms and the consultation. And one of them is like, what would make this your favorite service? I've never had anybody ever ask me that ever in a service. Or is there anything that anybody did that caused you not to like their service? So when we ask these questions, we know what not to do and we know exactly what to do. So we're that much more likely to make someone happy. And I have a great intake form where it has all these different questions and I explain why I ask them. Again, asking someone what products they use isn't just about what skincare line are you using and how can I sell you mine instead. It's not about what allergies you might have and how I make sure I don't get sued. It's seeing what products someone's using because we know if they're a ritual person or we're closer to knowing if they like a routine or if they want a ritual or if they're just like a type A personality and they don't want to do anything. With the type A personality that has this super rigid thing and they just want these products, then we have to honor that and work with them within their style. If someone comes in and they're only using one product, well, they either don't have the resources, don't understand the value, don't have it as a priority, or need the education. So we get to ask them of those, which is it, so that we know how to deal with them. Some people just want to treat every once in a while, and that's okay. And other people didn't know any better, and they just need to be informed. So these communication tools are something that I really absolutely love. And in my background, also, when I took a little pause from being in the treatment room is when I was a therapeutic coach and hypnotherapist and NLP practitioner. So I've learned all these different nuances of how to communicate in a trauma-informed way that is also very sales oriented for our own success. There's a whole consultation in addition to other consultation in addition to our intake form that can be utilized for higher ticket products for advanced treatment protocols and stuff. So also, we always want to make sure that we follow up in a way that locks you in as the only esthetician they're ever going to see. So we can't just send somebody off and never follow up with them, but the follow up is really important as well. Um, I think everybody at this point knows how valuable reviews are, not just on our Facebook, but on Google, on any platform, but Google mostly. And I always say important because you could lose your social media any day. They can decide that you're not going to be in it at any point. And most people are using it as like 80% of how they get their business. But we need to do all the follow-up and all the business building and connection building and multiple layers so that we don't lose it. And also, again, locking it in that you're the only esthetician because the way that you follow up is a way that no one else ever has. And it's very open for them to communicate and feel that trust, keep rapport going. And yeah, so last couple minutes, I just wanted to, again, I'll answer any questions that you have. And I wanted to see if you're interested, if you'd like to know what it would look like to have more support by me that would help to enhance your revenue and also your reputation. I have the Elite Spa Pro Academy. So I'll wait for people to bring questions in, and I'm just going to let you see what's in the Academy. So this is a year-long program that you have access to me. My students at this point still have my cell phone number. So no phone calls, just text. But there aren't many coaches right now that are allowing that kind of access to actually text me. Um, there's a private community. We're covering things like elite branding. So this is what other people are saying, like niching, but I have a really special strategy on this. Maria can attest to it. I'm not making you pick one specific thing. For me, my niche is the type of client I work with. It's not one specific skin type. It's not one specific treatment. It's a client personality type. And I use verbiage that attracts that person in all of my marketing material. So branding is, the aesthetics, the way you're going to carry yourself, the products that you might use, finding that kind of alignment, because I call it energetic congruency. We can't have one idea about our business and then do something completely different in a scarcity mindset or fear of missing out without it having negative repercussions on our business. So I want to help you lay the right foundation, even if you've already been in business. Most of my students have been in the business for 3 to 10 years, and they've kind of plateaued. So Elite Spa CEO is about boundaries, is about proper allocation of revenue, resources, and then also resources. So there's great resources there. Some of my favorite things, professional resources, companies that I work with, like answering systems that are like $10 a month. The other thing is the elite client experience. This is the one that I do feel is where I'm different than other coaches that are in this industry right now. A lot of coaches are talking about the strategy, the money, the technique for marketing. And like I can talk about that too. But because of my hypnotherapy and my coaching background, I can also help you learn how to communicate with clients in a way that seals them to be your client for the long term and have stronger referrals. So if we are having relationship issues with our partner, we're not going to go to our regular doctor who knows how to look at the body to make everything right. We're going to go to a therapist who knows how to look at the emotions to create the bond, to create that synergy, right? So to me, the idea of just looking at strategies and techniques is missing the bigger piece. Because we can always hire somebody to do the strategy and stuff if we needed to, but we really want to get to that wholesome experience and that holistic experience for our clients. So Elite Profit, that is where I go into marketing, which I have some really awesome strategies for marketing. I've been in this industry for over 30 years, and I started with, like I said, $500, got up to $1 million business. But I have so many different strategies from absolutely no money to it doesn't cost you anything, right, to draw in business, to printing out some gift certificates and finding ambassadors for yourself, to Facebook ads. I don't have social media, so I don't have groups where I can solicit or promote my business, but I can share with you the strategies that were really effective when I did utilize Facebook, and also with Instagram and stuff as well. So the profits is a lot of local business as well as online presence, SEO, why that's important versus ads, when you would choose one over the other. And then the Elite Spa employee, that's for if you are still working somewhere. You don't have to have your own, say, brick and mortar or your own business. If you're in this industry, you essentially have your own business. It's up to your work if your clients are going to come back to you. It's up to your technique. It's up to how you sell, how you recommend. So each one of us, that even if we're working for someone else, it's still technically or in concept our own business. So I help you to figure out how can you still be the best employee so that you also have your employer supporting you best. So I know, having had 27 employees, that's just at one time. I probably hired and fired and had quit like 700 over the 19 years before I sold my business. And I learned a lot from them of who I would agree to help and who I was like excited to help and who I wouldn't even care to help as an employee. There was a different way that they approached it. And so I took that and kind of gathered that information and now test it with my students to say, like, go to your boss with this, or ask them this way, or approach it this way. Take this information to them and then ask for the thing so that they are a little bit more excited. Say, for example, if you want a new piece of equipment, but they are unwilling to buy it. Well, if you start getting interest and have write people's names down that are interested and suggest to them that we pre-sell that service so that they would get the deposit for the equipment, they might be more willing to do it. That's just a smart strategy in business, period. Pre-sell anything you're going to buy, pre-sell it to validate that your clients are going to want it, but also to get money to pay for it. Um, and then there's more actually since I've printed this. There's actually more. There's hiring as well. So it's Elite Spa Team. I actually take you through my Indeed profile when I had a listing for an esthetician. And I go through all of the resumes that I review. And I tell you what looks good in a resume, what looks like a red flag in a resume, what to ask based on their resume, what to look for in the interview process. So it's actually helping you to qualify candidates and figure out how to do a proper interview. Quick example, you never tell somebody what the job entails because of course they're going to be great at that. You ask them what they're good at and you make sure that that fits the job position that you're looking for. So all these little tricks are super important to our business, especially if we want longevity in it. It really breaks my heart, especially looking for a really great supportive group like this one to see so many people saying like, I can't make it in my business. I'm struggling to pay myself. Like business isn't necessarily easy, but it doesn't have to be that hard. To me, the hardest part about business is the cracking open of the container we've hidden all of our negative beliefs about ourselves in. It gets cracked open and we get to witness all the insecurities, all the things, all the triggers. And we basically reenact any unhealthy patterns that we've had in romantic relationships within our business, feeling insecure, not worthy, not lovable, fear of missing out, right? Comparing to other people. So elite mindset is really important for me to help you get really clear so that you can be more empowered and in control of the way that you are noticing your emotions so that you can respond in a healthy way that helps grow this resilience. Um, yeah, so your self-talk doesn't take over and doesn't stop you. So supplies and resources, like I mentioned, these are some of the resources that I have of like top companies that I work with. And there is a lot more as the Academy has more members. The requests, I honor them and record content around that. And then within all of this content, this is all the pre-recorded stuff, but you also have 2 live calls per month with me. If you're unable to attend the call live, it's a video, not a call. You can tell how old I am saying phone calls and stuff. If you can't attend, there's a form that you can submit that would have the question and I'll still review it. And then all of the Q&A calls or meetings get uploaded into our private community. So you'll have access to them, access to one another. So in between the calls, you get to ask questions within the group and that way I'll answer them or either answer them or I usually do like a video response. And then there's the scripts for the intake form. There are special trainings for that'll actually come up in a minute. I'll explain more of those. But there's bonus workshops. Yeah, the bonuses. The only intake form you ever need. This is the intake form. It seriously is the intake form. It's the only one you'll ever need. You might want to change a couple things here and there. I have one for estheticians and one for massage therapists. There might be a couple things you'll to nuance for it. The perfect consultation is the training that tells you how to go through your consultation to utilize the intake form so that you will have that client for life and so that you can sell retail and that you can enhance all of their services, offer upgrades or advanced treatment protocols. And then effortless sales method, which is a little bit different than this. It's more of how we're talking to, well, it's very different than what I just did today. It's how we're talking to our clients. How we are marketing our services. So kind of within Elite Spot branding, if we're having packages versus programs, well, we want programs versus packages. So this is the Academy. I would love if anybody's interested, I'll go into the next screen and let you know this is what's included. This is the value, not the cost, the value. So the self-paced curriculum, the 2 monthly Q&A calls, the private community, the intake form, consultation, effortless sales method. You have just a sample. This is one lesson within a module, what I did today. So that's just a taste of how thorough I'm teaching. Just again, this is just a sample of a lesson. And there are, I think, 12 modules in there. And then if anybody's interested and you join during this training, you're going to get fast action bonuses. So you would get a free call with me where we go over what's happening in your business and help you come up with a quick plan so that you make your money back for the academy as quick as possible. So this is what it looks like if you did want to join. There is an installment plan for $195 a month. That's for 9 months, or the pay in full, which is where you get that fast action bonus of the actual live session with me. And that's $997 for the one-time payment. So pay in full. But I want to just see too if this again is what's covered. So while this is here, let me see, does anybody have any other questions? Any questions that pertain to what we did today? If you are watching the recording, go back into the event because I had trouble getting into the chat last time. Maria was awesome and tried to create a chat, but I can't get into it since I don't have a personal Facebook. If you go into the event and actually ask the question there, I can answer there. So weird that I can do that, but I can't get into a chat. Or you can email me or any way that you'd like to connect with me. But again, this is what's in the academy. And then if you need a little bit more info, here are 2 other master classes that I have available. My email, if you have any questions, just make sure you put the subject for money making. So I know that Maria is our beautiful intro. And yeah, any questions? Maria, I did it this time under time. I didn't last time we were like 20 minutes over. Oh,
You did.
that was another thing. If you're curious too to learn more about my strategies, there was also, we did a live on February 20th. So that's in Maria's YouTube channel. You can check that out too. But yeah.
And this will be up on YouTube hopefully by tomorrow or the next day.
Mm, okay, that's awesome.
It's already live streamed into the group, so somebody said this is really great information.
Awesome.
I'm excited to see my clients this week. And so you are very informative. Thank you. Enjoyed watching and listening.
Awesome. Please comment too. Let other people know. Like the group is so huge that even the events sometimes get missed by people just in the scroll, and if they don't know that's happening and life just gets busy. But I want more people to see this and I really want to help people. Like how great is it if we can sell a couple $100s of products with our clients instead of needing to book another facial or to book another thing and work more hours? So please do comment on there if you want to like tag me so people can look into it and mention this training. I would love to hear how it goes and ask questions if you try it and you're like, oh, this is what happened. I can help you with, really figuring it out and tweaking it to what suits you best. And I love to keep supporting you all.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I hope you feel better. Everybody send Maria loving, loving, healing. Don't be sick anymore vibes.
I know. Well,
Yeah.
thank you, thank you, thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. All right. I'll talk to you all later. Bye.